Hi everyone, my name is Carolina, and I wanted to go over, this is for Module 6, Nursing 440, and I wanted to go over my vulnerability lucid chart. And I guess I'll just start by telling you the definition of vulnerability. Vulnerability is the susceptibility to actual or potential stressors that can lead to adverse effects. So with that, I'll just start with my 6 factors. They are health status, education, poverty, addiction, mental health, and homelessness. These factors can affect different populations: migrant workers, uneducated, low income, adolescents. So there's many populations that these can affect, and I wanted to talk about the issues that can be brought about and can come about with these risk factors. So starting with health status, mental health issues, addiction, ineffective coping, and financial issues can come about. So with that health status, whenever there's a decrease or decline in health status, you might have a decline in mental health issues, meaning depression, not inability to cope with your current or change in health status. There could be a sudden or new onset of addiction, whether it be pain medications or other outside drug use because of this decline. And of course, financial issues that come about with these health status. I don't think I need to explain why that can be. I think we all know why. My second risk factor is education. With the lack of education, you will have a tendency to have financial decision-making problems, good decision-making problems, self-confidence issues, and communication problems. So you're just, when you aren't as educated as the next person, then you might have a little bit less confidence than the next person. You might not go for that job that you're hoping to get. You might not make the best decisions in life, best financial decisions, and that's not for everyone, of course. I think a lot of you all know that many people that didn't graduate high school and are just doing great, but that's not that's not very common. And finally, communication issues can be a problem. Not being able to communicate in the professional world, and even not in the professional world, being able to communicate is key. So, so that's that. The next factor is poverty. With poverty, there can be an issue with access to education, access to healthcare, access to good nutrition, and inferiority complex. Carries a stigma with poverty. No one likes to tell people that their financial issues or living in poverty. So you just feel. I think that's pretty clear on what you might feel, but basically inferiority complex is just something that you expect less from society, or people think less of you. Access to healthcare, that's pretty clear. Access to education, you just don't have access to that education that is so important to our population living in a low-income community or in a poverty-stricken community. My next factor is addiction. With addiction, there's ineffective coping, self-care issues, lack of support group, and disease and sickness. So ineffective coping with addiction and self-care, they kind of coincide, but at the same time, both these things can't come because you lack that support, that family support group. So if your main focus is to get high every day, you're not going to be thinking of what's truly important, like basic functions, like having a roof over your head, like food, things like this that can lead to sickness and disease. So all of those are really connected. And then mental health. I think we all know how mental health works. So a tendency for suicidal thoughts, ineffective coping, social stigmas, and violence and abuse. When you don't have that, the lack of support, because of the mental health, you tend to have ineffective coping, social stigmas. No one really likes to talk about their bipolar diagnosis, that you got 10 years ago, and you kind of tend to hide away from that because people think negatively of you. And then finally, violence and abuse. Mental health issues has a higher percentage of violence and abuse associated with their individuals. My final risk factor is homelessness, or being homeless. When you're homeless, you're exposed to the elements. So you don't have a roof over your head. It can lead to decline in health. You won't have access to health care. You won't have the access to education. Sorry, that's duplicated there. But what I meant to say was there's no access to education and access to good nutrition. And then that, I just wanted to sum it up by saying, like, if you see all my arrows are connected there, there is a strong connection with all of these factors. You just have to remember that when you're dealing with a patient with mental health issues, you're not just dealing with mental health issues, you're dealing with potentially education is possibly an issue, poverty is possibly an issue, health status is probably a problem as well. And this can lead to homelessness, this can lead to addiction. So you're just never dealing with one of these risk factors. They're kind of intertwined and connected. So we as providers need to keep that in mind always. That's basically it. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.